What it is, y'all? Welcome to Study Good. I got Sev Sojourner. I'm Sev Sojourner. I got CRay 2 times joining in with me. Hold on for a second. Word up. We about to go live. Go two faces. There
Yeah,
we go.
oh,
What it is, my bro?
yeah, it's all good, man. It's all good in the realm. What's good?
Beautiful in the round, right?
Huh?
Said it's beautiful in the round, right?
All day, every day, man.
That's
And
what it is, my bro.
good day to be alive and breathing, man.
Right, right.
That's
Man, it's a blessing for sure. No
cool.
question. How was your day today, man? What was your day like?
Oh man, woke up, listened a little bit to the word and some preaching. Just try to get in tune with God, do a little bit of prayer for myself before I leave for the day. Uh,
Bless.
Went out for the day, tackled it, it's
Mm.
Monday, so crushing it at what I do best, turning sand into gold, you know what I mean? So a long day of that till sundown, and then back to the crib, a little bit of meditation before hopefully a good conversation about, life and God and all the good things, right?
That's what it is, my man. So, like, me and you have known each other for a long time, obviously, right?
Back.
Um, but more so than that, I kind of just wanna really get into why we're doing this and how study good came about. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you kind of explain study good, just because I feel like a lot of it was birthed from our conversation. So let the people know, those who are chiming in, those who get to chime in later, let the people know where study good and the idea came from, my brother.
All right, so Study Good came from some writing on the first page of my grandmother's Bible that I received as a gift. So when I originally saw it in her handwriting, I swear I thought that it was Study Good, right? So it just kind of became this idea of like, study good to save yourself, just make sure you know the scriptures is kind of how I like interpreted that. Well, I
Right.
came to find out that the book of Joel is really, Joel, Joel, I think is maybe what that really means. And what Joel is the second of the Old Testament books, and it bears the name of the minor prophets, right? So, like, I'm just finding this out, right? Like, literally moments ago before we started this stream. But it's been an idea that we've had of just kind of like trying to maybe get a little bit more conversation about the actual Bible and the actual script.
Yeah, man. Like, I'm glad that you brought up the book of Joel, really talking about like the prophets and breaking down like the actual salvation. Um, and really kind of, I guess, on my own personal journey, just because I feel like we have similar journeys, but they're a little bit different, I guess, in perspective, but they're similar in a variety of different ways. But my own personal journey, I really came back to being a believer in Yahushua, Hamashiach, um, because I had my own spiritual journey where I was really going through finding myself again, and I think like within finding myself and going through this journey of finding myself, um, it made me dive back into Christianity. And then within diving into Christianity, I'm a historian just by nature. And the more that I went into like history and understanding the word and understanding this narrative, because me being a man of color, man, a melanated man, and really coming from like this Afrocentric background, I needed to know who we were within the Bible. And the more that I did information, digging into knowledge, digging into who King James actually was, digging into some of the lost tribes, the significance of the lost tribes, and how the lost tribes are people of melanated color, it became less significant. Woo! And the reason why it became less significant is because you understand once you can get past the lie, the importance of the word. So like the reason why I say it became less significant is because once you know who the people of the Bible is, then it becomes more about the Torah, it becomes more about the Tanakh. And like that's where I'm at within my journey, is like I found who I am as an Israelite within the word based off of bloodlines, lineage, and slavery. And now I'm at a point right now where I'm just trying to feed people the word while giving them that truth as well, but really just trying to give them knowledge of who Yah is, and then we can get into all, the terminologies later in the conversation, but, who Yah is and, why I recommitted my life within this journey.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's important to, like I said, it's important to study good, man. Like know the literature for yourself. Like that's really like what like my main focus is with anything that's related to study good. But realizing that like this is like to study the book of Joel as well, and that's the book of the prophets. Like I think that that's extremely in line with people like yourself and myself that are considering ourselves as being spiritual people, right? And of
Right.
course, like the main goal is always to get like the next person closer to God, um, but always making sure that you're getting yourself closer to God also, right? Like so it's that's your first responsibility. But like I think that it's important to maybe like break down what it's actually said in it, or dive into what type of questions you have within the Bible. And I, like I'm no uh professor or studied student of this except for what I read at home. And I think that that's the most important part. As long as you can have your own conversation with in that word, then I think that you'll be led by God, and that's always going to bring you closer to and bring others closer to God. And I think that that's the main goal. Study good,
No, that's
that you got study well, too.
no, I 100% agree with you. I feel like one of the problems that I've always had with church growing up, because I came up in church loosely, you know what I'm saying? Loosely, meaning that like my parents weren't like, strong believers where they were raising me in church necessarily. But one of the things that ended up happening with me, bless up, my bro. Thank you, small boy. One of the things that happened with me is because my parents weren't really all that church bound. My pops, when I was growing up, I remember my dad telling me when I was growing up, he's like, he would really emphasize on how much money the church would make. You know what I'm saying? His biggest focus would be on like, why do we tithe and where does that money go to? And what that did to me as a young man, it made me skeptical, but I was still open. You know what I'm saying? And I've had good and bad experiences at church. I've come up through being a Seventh-day Adventist, and then from being a Seventh-day Adventist, went to a non-denominational church, and then left church, and then went on to a variety of different spiritual journeys, like studying, being a 5%er, studying Islam, studying Buddhism, studying metaphysics, all these other things that brought me all the way full loop back to the Most High, to Yahushua. You know what I'm saying? And like, I think that was an important journey for me. I felt like the prodigal son. I learned a lot of lessons while I was out there in them streets, and now I understand like some of the lessons that I learned while I was out there in them streets are very important because they give you wisdom. So I gained a lot of wisdom being on that journey, but um, I think it gave me more of an understanding on like the full spectrum of spirituality. You know what I'm saying? And I think that you know, in the day and time that we're in, it's real easy to like be one-sided or very linear when we're thinking about spirituality. A lot of people criticize the Bible because it's man-made and it's written by man. But we also have to understand that these, like, I'm glad that you brought up the book of Joel, because the prophets used to pass down the word verbally, right? Like griots. They used to pass it down from person to person before it was actually written. So I think that's another thing that, you know, a lot of these even metaphysics ideas that they talk about are actually in the Bible. And
Hmm.
I pulled up some scriptures to actually prove that. Um, just to talk about like kind of the ascension of the mind, and you know, even the pineal gland is mentioned in the Bible. It's
Mm.
just a lot of people never looked at the Bible in that way, so they kind of they go straight to the New Testament, and they go, and I'm not knocking the New Testament, but they go straight to Hamashiach, Jesus Christ,
Mm.
and they don't really get into the knowledge of like the Old Testament and some of the things that the prophets did to prove that the Most High is able to ascend any man to his greatness.
Hmm. I think that, you know, when it comes to, I guess, the political nature of what religion is, and the always hard to navigate obstacles that we face when we speak about religion. Um, it's a very sensitive subject, of course, to a lot, and I think that people are often misdirected because of these political beliefs or gains they believe have to be made by um, proving one way or the other what political means the Bible may represent. I think that completely misses the entire scope of what like the scriptures can teach you, right? Because like no matter what, these are ancient holy words that were written, right? So like there was so much time and preparation that went into these words that just in studying them alone, you're connecting yourself to the higher power.
True indeed. You know, like when we got first on, you were talking about meditation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And especially when you're talking about, you know, the constructs of religion, a lot of the time, Christians specifically, um, they get scared of the word. They get scared of meditation, and like
Oh, it's written
the re-
throughout the Bible, though. Meditate
right, exactly. Um,
word.
yeah, yeah. No, what were you gonna say? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, meditating on the word, meditating on God, you know, like, I mean, what are you, I mean, this is the thing, like, I think people often forget as well. They say the universe, right? Like, because they can't explain anything larger than the universe, right?
Mm, hmm.
I mean, my God created the universe, so he's infinitely larger and smaller than the universe, you know, like that,
He's all things for
that
sure.
all encompassing, right?
Right.
So like people use the word universe because it encompasses them, right?
It's become like a cultural norm too. You know what I'm saying? Like I know that like a lot of like you know, when you're thinking about the laws of attraction, you know, manifesting things in your life, um, and you know, let's keep it real. Like a lot of that came from you know, like the whole law of attraction movement that ended up happening. You know, with the I can't think of the book right now, but there's a variety of different books that kind of break down the law of attraction. But like the terms that they use is they actually took the creator out of it and they put the universe in place of it. So it became kind of a just a cultural norm to utilize the universe instead of utilizing the Most High, God, Jesus Christ, Yahushua, Yahuwah Hamashiach. You know what I'm saying? Like they
Right.
took that portion out, and I think that there's a
Well,
variety of different.
I would even, to elaborate on that, say, like, what is good, except for like an extension of the word God, you know?
Mm, mm.
Godly good must come from that, like.
I mean, that goes into like some deeper stuff too, like just the English, language itself. You break down what English is, where it comes from, where it derives from,
Right.
versus Hebrew. You know
Well,
what I'm saying?
not
Paleo Hebrew.
stay shallow, so let's get deep.
Yeah, let's get deep. So, like when we're talking about like the actual breakdown of like Paleo Hebrew, it's a variety of different things. So, like the words that we pronounce and the ways that we read the Bible, a lot of that was constructed within the 16th century, right? So, before the 16th century, there was no letter J. You can research that. I encourage you to research that. If you don't believe me, go ahead and look it up. However, you research that, whether that be through the means of Google or you go ahead and go to the library and get some books, it's pretty easily researchable. But the letter J was something that was constructed within the 16th century. So the word Jesus is never in the Bible when you're talking about it before the 16th century. So as America was being constructed, the letter J was in there. So the way that we see and hear Jesus is very recent in comparison to the 2,000 years when Joshua actually existed. Now, I'm not one of these Israelites that is going to sit there and like persecute and say Christians are wrong for saying anything. I'm just giving context to the information so that you can research it yourself. Um, but within that, like when you go ahead and get into the word and the meditation of the word, like one of the things that you learn in metaphysics is um, affirmation. So anything that you say regularly over and over and over, you can call that into your existence, whether it be good or bad. So if perfect example, I'll use Tupac. When Tupac started talking about death a lot on his records, regardless of how y'all feel, good or bad towards Pac, he called death to himself, right? A lot of these young rappers who are dying early in their life, if you listen to the drug habits and the things that they talk about in their music, they're calling death onto themselves. So the thing about it is like we don't take account on how powerful the words that we have in our mouths and the things that we put out, quote unquote, in what the world says, the universe, right? So like the words that we put out into the world are what we call onto ourselves. When you understand what CRay was saying, CRay was saying, when you're meditating on the word, if you're saying no weapon formed against me shall prosper, and you're meditating on no weapon formed against me shall prosper, then you're walking boldly in the world. You know what I'm saying? If you're walking it greater that is he that lives in me than he that lives in the world, you know what I'm saying? Then you're walking in power. But a lot of the time we have a tendency to give up our power because of the ways that we're trained within media, the things that we watch on a regular, and a lot of the news, believe it or not, the news ain't nothing but fear mongering, y'all.
Right.
Let's keep it real. There's information that's valid in the news. I'm not saying all of it is fear mongering, but a lot of it is fear mongering. So like you got a lot of people who are walking around scared of dying right now because of a disease that's out there. And instead of talking positive affirmations, utilizing the word, they're speaking death onto themselves and they're speaking fear onto themselves. And I've seen people get sick out of fear, and that's one of the things that we all have to like really overcome. That's the power of the word and meditating on the word is the more you understand what the word actually is. When you're talking about like the full armor of God, the full armor of Yah, the helmet of salvation, the breastplate of righteousness, the shield of truth, the belt, you know, of truth, the belt of truth, and like the shoes of readiness, the sword of the spirit. Those are weapons that we utilize in order to conduct ourselves in the world that we live in. And a lot of us don't even understand that we have these weapons and there's nothing for us to fear because we're already empowered with the Most High.
Right.
That's the power of the word, to me, anyways.
Yeah. I mean, uh, to me, it's the knowledge, man, that's within it, and you can choose to read it or not, like, but I'd say that it's worth the read, in my opinion.
Man, in Hosea 4:6, it says, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge.
Straight up, like, I mean, if the day comes where, you know, you're asked certain questions and you don't have the knowledge to pass these certain tests, right? Like, wouldn't you be like, I mean, there's people that would swear you have to read a certain book, right? To like, oh, you've got to read this book. It's such a great book. It's going to change your life, right? And there's many of them out there that I think people would name right off of the top of their head before they would ever name the Bible, right? And,
Mm-hmm.
um, I would say that that's the first book that you got to read,
For
because
real.
even if you don't believe, like, your whole existence is based upon this book. The society that we live in right now is based off of this book. We have the society that we have because so many before us base their lives off of this book.
Good and evil, for the righteous and for the negative as well. You know what I'm saying?
So learn. I mean, it's a tool. It's something that you, in my opinion, it would be wise to learn.
Right, man. Like I think that I don't know. I think a lot of the metaphysics parts, the supernatural parts, are some of the things that throw people off of the book, off of spirituality,
Watch
true spirituality.
every day, my bro. The
Real talk, man.
fan and storm, and you know, people believe that you can read minds and all of that these days.
All of that, but it's all real though. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people haven't had a supernatural experience, or um, they're so caught up on the idea of what supernatural is, they still haven't had a supernatural experience. Meaning that, like, when you talk about that there are demons out there or that there's spirits out there, whether they be righteous, whether we're talking about angelic or we're talking about demonic, it's a hard concept for a lot of people to like really conceptualize and to digest, especially if that's like a foreign idea to them. You know what I'm saying? But the thing about it that I've learned is fear in itself is evidence that there's something greater out there. Meaning that, like, a lot of the time, an example, like if you've ever watched like Freddy Krueger or any scary movie, right? How does he attack you? He attacks you when you're asleep, when you're alone, and you're most vulnerable, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the Bible, it says that the devil is a roaring lion seeking who he may devour. So many of like the scary movies that we watch, whether we're talking about it, whether we're talking about Freddy, or we're talking about just like a suspense movie, the thing that makes it fearful is the unknown, not knowing what's actually behind the veil. And a lot of the time, we associate everything to movies. And the thing about movies is movies tell more truth than lies. A lot of us think it's all fantasy. A lot of us think it's all ideology. A lot of us think it's all ideas. But if you understood that the people who make the movies actually have more information and knowledge about spiritual attacks and how the spiritual realm actually works, then you would understand that they're actually telling you more truth than lies. Like when you watch it, if you ever watch it, when the kids start taking it out, they stop being scared of it. So when they stopped being fearful of it, they were able to conquer them.
Mm-hmm.
That's the basic. It says in Isaiah 14:10, it says, "Fear not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee. Yes, I will help thee. I will uphold you to the right hand of my righteousness." Why would he tell Isaiah that? Because he understood that Isaiah was going to go through the valley of the shadow of death. He was going to be walking in evilness on a regular basis. The world that we orchestrate and conduct in on a regular basis, if you watch the news and you just watch it for the fear mongering, you see people die, you see people get robbed, you see freaking natural catastrophes happen any part of the world. So the world itself is already showing you what it is. But if you walk in that fear, you're attracting it to yourself. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yo, Joel too. Blow ye the trumpet in Zion and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord cometh, for it is nigh at hand. You know, like,
Mm-hmm.
when you sound off in the name of God, like, your enemies tremble. You know, like, the worst thing that you could do is pray that your enemies know God the way that you know God, because that's like putting a thousand hot coals on their head, right? But that's not why we do it, right? We do it because we know God's like love too and his mercy too, right? So you pray for mercy like upon those who wish you ill because they know not, right? So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
are there reflections of man's atrocities littered throughout cinema and the media? Absolutely. But they're man's atrocities mostly. You know,
Mm. That's my whole thing within that though. Like, what is man controlled by? Because it says to live in the world but not be of the world, right? And if Satan is the lord of the world, not the physical world, right? I'm talking about the ideology of the world. Um, that means that there's a spirit on the world. You know what I'm saying? And I think that like when you operate, like even when you're thinking about like the temptations that Jesus went through, that Yeshua went through, right? The temptations represent what we all have to go through as individuals. We're all going to get tempted, right? Whether it be through finances, whether it be through sexual advances, whether it be through a hustle, get money, we all are tempted on a regular base. Now, like his example of how he handled it, he gave us an example of how to handle it, right? You're going to get all these opportunities. Who do you trust more? Do you trust the devil or the ideology of the devil? Do you trust the world or do you trust the Most High more, right? In Jesus's case, he trusted the Most High more than he trusted, the ideology of getting the whole world and being the Lord of the world. He's like, I already have all that. How you going to give me something that I already have?
right.
And I think that's the thing that most people in the world don't understand is that you sell your soul when you're willing to go ahead and compromise your own beliefs and your moral compass in order to get the things that you want in this world when it's already coming to you. You're gonna already get it. You want the car, you're gonna get it. You want the house, you're gonna get it. You want the money, you're gonna get it. But you have to be patient and trust that the Most High is gonna give it to you because he has to put you through some trials and tribulations in order for you to get wisdom to appreciate it when you get it. But
Right.
a lot of people just want it now. And they're not even ready for it when they get it. They don't like a lot of these young rappers that sign those contracts, they don't know what the hell they signing. They just signing over paper because they're excited for the money and they excited for the women and they excited for the house. And I get it. But you still have to get the wisdom to be able to handle it, you know?
There's definitely redemption, within the within the word, there's redemption that can be had at all times for all things, like that. There's also retribution in the Bible, there's also, like, I mean, you name it, it's in the Bible. I mean, there's not something
The
that,
good, bad, and the ugly. Yeah.
yeah, there's not something that's not debated, and I think that that's good. I think it's good that it brings conversation. My whole focus and goal always though is just to study good, right?
Mm.
Like when I saw that, even if it's study Joel, like, which it very well looks like it is, and I just misread it. But it looked like study good to me. But that's gonna be what it is for me. Like it's a happy coincidence that it just so happens like that. Like, and I think when you're grateful for the things like big and small every day, like these like happy stance, these circumstantial things that happen, right, that are happy, these coincidences that just magically kind of happen, like are kind of like your keys that let you know that you're on point, you're on tune with what's going on.
What got you like back into studying?
Yeah. What?
What got you back into studying the word like diligently, I should say. You know, like
Oh man. So just like I mean, I had like an eye-opening experience. It was like probably maybe even spiritual attack. I'm not certain, but um just I had a really tough time sleeping after a trip that I took, and I was just like I didn't know what was going on, but like I was having a really tough time sleeping. I wasn't feeling good. I wanted to go and get checked out, so I went and got checked out. I sat down for a few hours, and throughout that process, like my eyes were kind of opened to me about like maybe the traumas that society kind of still has. And
mm,
man, it just opened my eyes that it's like I've always known that it's real. I've always believed in God, but now I know, like
mm,
I things that were shown to me to where I feel like I know, and I'll leave it at that, like, and that made me want to study more, you know,
mm.
when I, and maybe that's fear of not knowing God or not doing well in God's eyes, or um you know fear of what awaits me, shall I not, prepare my soul.
That was definitely what happened to me personally. You know what I'm saying? I think my fear of the realities of where we're currently at in society and like knowing that I was unsure. I
Mm,
think that was one of the things that got me back into studying the word. And then I know for sure, my personal experience, I can speak on for sure that I was definitely spiritually attacked. You know, I have like some very specific things that happened in my own personal journey that I'm not in question of. And it definitely was, Yah showing me that you either are going to go in this direction for the wages of sin is death, and you're going
mhm.
to deal with the impacts of what that death is, or you're going to give your life back to me, and I'm going to go ahead and take care of you, and I'm going to go ahead and get you through this journey. But this is your choice. And I think that I was always in question, man. Like, I've been listening to like even like some of my old music and things that I've said in it, and not, like I also understand that, yeah, he is using you even when you're not wanting to be used. Um, he's in your life and he's guiding your path even when you don't acknowledge it.
Mhm.
But I honestly thought it was all me, and like that's the trick of the devil is when you think it's all you, and Yah was like, if you think it's all you, then go ahead and fight them by yourself. You fight that battle by yourself, see if you win, you know,
I,
and
I feel like God was talking to me too, man. I feel like he was like, because I was really um excited to learn about different things like Buddhism and all kinds of different yoga stuff, and not I, I'm still not, and I'm not even trying to throw shade on any of that stuff at all, but it's all got its base. And I feel like for me personally, God was like, see, you out here kind of playing around, but like when it really comes down to it, when it really goes down, like this is the enemy that you're facing. Like, do you want to place your trust in that?
mm,
I mean, it was as clear as day to me. It was like, nope, sure don't. You know, uh,
exactly, yeah, it's for sure with me on that for sure.
and I've always carried the Bible. I've always read the Bible. I went to church as a young man. My parents had me in the church. I've never had any bad experiences in church. I've seen bad, what I would say is representations of, uh, what goes on in some churches. And, of course, money is always going to be a point of contention between any two people, especially people that have it to people that don't have it. Um, Anything works, but has to work with money. So for me to judge anybody else's institutions without like knowing those inner works, I feel like would be wrong of me. But I do feel like Pimp C said it really well, because we're all sinners, man. But we all have a chance to have the grace of God, right? And I think that Pimp C said it really well when he was like, I'm not paying for the preacher's wrong. He said, I read my Bible at home because I'm not paying for the preacher's wrong. And like I thought that that was really important and insightful, and that always stuck with me because it's something that I often found myself doing when I got to like hard times or when I had these spiritual battles. I always had the Bible with me by my side throughout those. So
Like what I found, like most people who are walking in truth,
yeah,
they're walking in truth because they pulled away to study for themselves
right,
versus being a person who's getting forced, or not even force fed, who's getting spoon fed the Bible. You know what I'm
right,
saying? Like,
right, yeah, and I think that like I don't think that God was saying that like you aren't able to like utilize the like metaphysics of it to still accomplish your goals, right? But like it's important to pay homage to like where that energy is sourced from. Otherwise, you may not be sourcing from a pure energy.
like the whole basis of like Deuteronomy 28, when you really break it down, it goes back into everything that's currently happening with the new age. So like everything that goes into like worshiping false idols, everything that goes to other sources of worship that isn't connected to the Most High, those were the very same curses that the Israelites were continually doing in disobedience to the Most High. So like it like this day and time is no different than, like, in my personal opinion, is no different than the book of Jeremiah. It's no different than the book of Isaiah. It's no different than any of these books, man. We're in the current time where people would rather gravitate to the new age and rather gravitate to gods that they're comfortable with than gravitating towards the Most High. And I think that, and that's one thing that I've noticed is like when I start talking about the Most High, people are like, what are you talking about? When I start talking about Yahushai, when I start throwing out these phrases, God, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people are like, whoa, hold up now. I don't know if I like, and like one of the things that I found specifically in like the conscious community is like it always goes back to it being like a slave book. And like my whole thing within that, and that's the whole reason that I did so much knowledge on myself, like finding the truth of what the Torah is, what the people of the Bible, who they are. The reason that I did that is because if that's the main thing that is keeping you away from the Most High, which is a legitimate reason, if that's the main thing that's keeping you Most High, because you've been oppressed, because your family has experienced bloodline lineage of oppression, and that's keeping you away because you feel like it's a colonized book. Um, then I encourage anybody who's in question of that for those reasons to do their own knowledge, because as soon as you start studying, as soon as you start going and doing the history, you start realizing that there's a reason that these images, these engraved images that we were never supposed to make of God, were looking the way that they looked. They look Eurocentric. And like it's basic history. Like when you do basic history on like who were the original people, how did those people migrate, what did that look like on a time scale? It's basic. Now, like a lot of people are in denial of it because of their own, for a variety of different reasons.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
I mean, so basically what you have of the Bible is a book that was stolen, like, and I don't even want to use the word stolen. Maybe this book was given to the Eurocentric people, right? And that's why you have the King James translation of the Bible, right? Is because it was given to these people. Now, have those people and their institutions done well with it? I mean, that's for God to say, right? And I think that a lot of people do judge like, like the whole Catholic Church based upon what they see with, let's be honest, pedophilia within the priesthood. And I understand that. I don't, but to throw away a whole religion would be to like throw away a whole race based on, you know, the behavior of a few bad people. And they do.
My whole thing is like getting out of constructs of religion, period. And I
Right.
think that's a hard thing for a lot of people to conceptualize when we're talking about the Most High, is that like we associate everything to religion. And the thing about it is, it's not a religious book, it's a spiritual book. And when you get outside of the constructs of religion and you understand it to be a spiritual book, then the race part don't matter. But the
Right.
reason why the race part matters is because of religion. So the more that you get into the constructs of why the book was co-opted and why the book was changed, it goes back into the book of Deuteronomy 28. That's an important book. And then go into Revelation and really think about the synagogue of Satan. Who does that represent? Babylon. What is Babylon? Why are these important things? Because as we're in these times that we're currently in, these prophecies are coming into fruition. You got to know exactly, if you got a sword, you got to know whose head you're going to cut off. That's facts. And if you sitting there thinking that there's no one's head to cut off because we're taught not
Will
to.
come to Judah and Jerusalem only when the people turn to Yahweh.
Exactly.
That.
You know what I'm saying? That's the breakdown.
Straight.
And that's the reason. That's why I say, like, I don't want some, if you're gonna go ahead and give me the truth, give me all the truth. Don't give me like the fabricated parts that make everybody feel good, because the truth don't feel good. The truth should hurt sometimes. The truth should make you feel super uncomfortable in order for you to learn from it, though.
Mm.
That's why it's uncomfortable. Like, if it don't hurt, if it don't make you feel uncomfortable, if everything you get that is truth is easy, then that ain't the truth. That crap ain't the truth. If everything that you can get in the truth is easy and you don't have to do any work on yourself and you don't have to do any research and you don't have to dig any deeper, then you getting fed bad medicine, yo. That ain't medicine. You getting fed sugar. So like, I'm very much of the interpretation. Give me the vegetables, bro. Give me the nasty shit that is hard to digest in order for me to be able to grow,
You got
because
a stone on it. You got to walk in faith and put a stone on it.
that's what I'm saying, bro. And the thing about it is like, only because of the constructs of religion do we argue about this shit. Get out of religion, you get into spirituality and you accept it. Don't I put it this way. The only, and this is a hard thing for most people to digest. Jesus don't matter. His color don't matter until you say he's black. It don't matter until he says black. Why do we got to talk about color? As soon as you say he's black, why has it got to be about race?
Man,
It don't got to be about race.
don't
But
know. I mean, at this point, like, let's be honest, it's, you know, complete and utter, you know, just unwillingness to admit, you know, the way the world works. And
it's not important. This is what I'm
it's
saying. When we're
not,
talking about salvation,
because no matter what, like, you can be saved now. It doesn't matter if, you know, like, I mean, maybe there's a difference between like the Old Testament and the New Testament, right? But like what Jesus said though is that, you know, like, people of all lands, right? All lands would be saved by him.
you won't give me into that. But like what Paul said, you know, in Romans 1:16, he said, "For I'm not ashamed of the gospel, for it's the power of God for salvation for everyone who believes, first to the Jew, then to the Gentile." So like, my whole thing is that the whole thing about repentance, the most important thing about repentance, everything that we're dealing with within America, like when we're talking about the movements that's happening, not just on the American soil, but just in general, like when we're talking about Black Lives Matter, talking about indigenous rights, we're talking about LGBTQ, talking about all these different movements that have been put into place. The one thing that eliminates all of these constructs and all of these ideas is the word, the Bible. And the reason why I say that is because when we're breaking down the actual curses and why the curses were put into place, who the people of the Bible are, and the breakdown of what that is, at that point, we understand there's people who have information, there's people who have knowledge and power, And the reason that they want to go ahead and keep this information from us in order to keep control.
Hmm.
Now, when we're talking about Trump and Biden and politics and blue and red, those are distractions. Like you want to focus on those distractions, focus on those distractions. Focus on Yah, you don't have to worry about those distractions. Like I was, and you were as well, very much a part of like advocating for, justice for brutality that was coming from the police, right? But like when you get outside of all of that and you understand that it's a construct that's been put into place, and the system is going to do what the system was made to do because that's what it does, then you stop fighting the system and you just start believing in the Most High, because the Most High is the only one that's going to actually break us out of this construct. But if you focus on the politics, you're
Yeah.
disillusioned. You're disillusioned.
I
And
say
I used to be
that
that person.
this study well, friends. Straight up, and study
That's right.
good, study well, study Joel. All of that, man. Um, I feel very blessed to be able to have these conversations. You know, I'm an amateur at it, but I enjoy talking about it and speaking on it. So thank you, brother, for having this live and chatting it up with me on this. But I think that I'm gonna tap out for the evening here, and much love to all those that joined, and blessings, y'all. You already know. Um,
God bless. God bless.
bless, and Jah Rastafari. To all my people.
Praise to the Most High.
Yeah, absolutely. Yo, much love, bro. Peace.
Study good, y'all.
Thanks.
Bless up.
Outskis, bro.